Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Well, Sam, another week, another dollar?
I better be getting more than $1. $1 a week.
Well, it feels like it.
Guys, my family is starving.
Oh, man. Well, just because of our filming or our recording schedule, we literally just recorded the last episode a few days ago.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened.
Well, Alien Romulus has come out, but we still haven't seen it.
Yeah, did we talk about it last episode?
We did.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, a lot bit actually, because I just re-listened to that episode.
Wow.
Yeah, and I listened to the Ask Dad episode, and
Wow.
let me tell you, it's a good episode.
Sam
Dad,
finally started
I like
listening to
him.
the podcast, guys.
I finally did. Took me a while.
Did you see the trailer for Megalopolis? Is that how you say it?
Megalopolis. Yeah, I did.
One, I do want to see it, but I'm like, there are few things I hate in this world more than ego.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all over it, man. Like, I've never had any reason to not like Francis Ford Coppola, but it's like, this is just like self-indulgent. Just,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. And then it turns out, okay, so if you haven't seen the trailer starts off with critical quotes about Coppola's previous films, like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now and all these other ones. Basically, just quotes from critics saying it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Turns out they're all fake.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the hell thought this was going to be a good idea?
I don't know.
It kind of, I mean, like, I get the concept behind it would have been cool. That would have been like, I wouldn't say ballsy, but that would have been a statement. Like, all right, I got it. I get it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's even worse because they weren't real quotes. They faked it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is stupid.
It's such a weird thing to do. 'Cause one, I feel like this movie just already has so much going against it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you haven't listeners, if you haven't been following this, Megalopolis is the latest movie from critically acclaimed and famed director Francis Ford Coppola, who made Apocalypse Now, the Godfather movies, the 90s Dracula, all that. This movie Megalopolis has been a passion project of his that he's been trying to do for decades. And just, kind of like George Lucas, where it's like he couldn't make the movie that he wanted to because the technology wasn't ready in his era. That's sort of been Coppola's deal. Like he didn't think that the technology was advanced enough to bring his crazy ideas to life, blah blah blah. Well, now the trailer is out. There's no studio would back it. No American studio would back it. He had to go to France and essentially pull a bunch of favors. And so it's being distributed by like a big like French distributor. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, and here's the thing. I'm not against it. I think it looks fine. It definitely looks ballsy and like, okay, yeah, this is a very artsy, very out there kind of, movie. I can see why nobody wanted to give it money, but it's kind of like how do you talk somebody out of their passion project,
Yeah, I'm always down for someone's passion project. Just like show me what you're really passionate about, what you really love. Let's see what you got. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um and but the way they're doing it, and it's like
It's so weird because like I agree with you. I think having pull quotes from, you know, critics who have said, you know, like, oh, these movies, you know, weren't that great, or this is a bad
Hmm.
movie, blah blah blah, coupled with Lawrence Fishburne's narration
Hmm.
of something along the lines of like
He's a
uh
cinematic genius, blah blah blah.
yeah, he's a
Yeah,
cinematic genius who's unappreciated in his time, you know,
yeah.
like he's ahead of his time essentially.
Hmm.
um I think I do think that that's a ballsy move. But you really couldn't find somebody who didn't like Apocalypse Now, like an actual quote from a guy who didn't like Apocalypse Now.
Right? Yeah,
You
just
know,
get on
some
Twitter.
yeah, dude, just get
Yeah.
on Twitter, like just use
I
that. Like
look,
I don't know, it's yeah, that's weird. And
this
also just like having it be framed as like he's a cinematic genius and now this is the next step in his future.
yeah.
Like
He's an older man. He's in his twilight years. He's, I don't want to sound rude or sarcastic or anything, but like, when I say it, but like he is someone who is facing the end of his life.
mhm.
And as an artist, I can't even imagine what that would feel like, much less, just as a person, in addition to as an artist. There's a lot about, legacy. What am I leaving behind? Blah blah blah. Is Francis Ford Coppola still relevant? That's probably what's going through his head right now. You
Mm.
know, he has every intention of this being his greatest film ever, which I think every filmmaker should go into thinking. But it's like this feels like he's deliberately trying to make something that's gonna stand the test of time. And when they think of me, they'll think of this film. That kind of thing. And it's just like,
Yeah.
man, how do you talk someone out of that? It's like,
It
oh,
yeah. It's like it's very interesting because I feel like right now we're getting, I mean, let's kind of shift the conversation a little bit because you know, Coppola comes from that era of sort of maverick young filmmakers like
mm-hmm,
George Lucas and Spielberg, you
mm-hmm,
know, and Scorsese. Like they were all these very young filmmakers who came in after, you know, you had people like John Ford making movies, you
mm-hmm,
know, and they ushered in this new era of filmmaking that we're now in, much like they are, the twilight years. You
mm-hmm.
know, they're all getting older. You know, their latest pictures are not the same sort of, you know, gritty nihilistic movies, or you know, like these movies that have so much action and gusto and you know all this stuff. Is like a lot of them are making these very sort of somber, quiet movies about reflection, about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
about maybe not necessarily about like their youth specifically, but just about life.
Yeah.
And you know, like I think that's interesting, but it's also interesting because you know, it feels like with certain filmmakers, like they have a longevity and they have enough energy to like keep going and keep making movies in this era. And this era specifically is a very precarious era to be making movies, to be making content, if you want to use that word. And you know, it's sort of like Spielberg. Spielberg still has, you know, his pull. He can kind of make the movies that he wants to make. Scorsese a little bit limited, but is still making the movies that he wants to make. And then you've got Coppola, who really hasn't been bankable for a while, pulling out all the stops for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, it's weird because in you pointing out like this is like he wants to make a movie that'll stand the test of time, kind of feels like that's also what Tarantino is doing with his quote unquote last movie, The Film Critic or whatever it's
Mm-hmm.
called, uh where he's like, yeah, like this, like pouring all of this stuff into it to make like this thing. And it's like I feel like that's sort of the wrong way to go. You just make the movie, you just tell the story, you know. don't go into this thinking, oh yeah, this will be my last, or oh, something,
I yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on that because well, just a specific part of that. I don't think that's what Tarantino's doing at all.
Mm,
One, I think Coppola is a good example of why Tarantino wants to stop. His
mm,
theory is that no director has good film after their 10th film,
hmm.
which I don't
Or
think.
it's more so no director has more than 10 good films.
Oh yeah, something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I disagree with that completely, but
Yeah.
I understand where he's saying what he's saying. That's his beliefs. Okay, um, I think I think he doesn't want to go the Coppola route. He doesn't want to completely throw himself into something which, who knows, it could be good. I want it to be good,
Hmm.
but passion projects rarely turn out well because the reason they're called passion projects is because the person creating it, it's just so much. It's kind of like what people think filmmaking is. Like, oh, there's this one guy, he's running the whole show. It's like,
Mm.
no, there is a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Spielberg,
Yeah.
Scorsese, all those big ones, they have to collaborate to a certain degree, you know? The passion projects, though, is like, no, this is something I'm making no matter what. You
Hmm.
know, I have this script and it's not changing even as we go. It's just like, it's
Yeah.
like you box yourself off because you love something so much, you know?
Hmm.
It's kind of like people who don't want to edit their films because they don't want to cut out the scenes that don't further progress the story or character arcs
Hmm.
because they just like every part of it so much. And it's like that to me is what that passion project is, you know?
Hmm.
You're just closing yourself off from actually letting it grow and letting other people help you build and tell your story. Hopefully it's good. Tarantino, on the other hand, so he doesn't want to go that route. On the Tarantino, on the other hand, I don't think he's trying to make something that's going to like um be like this. When you think of Tarantino, this is what it is. I think he is just someone who wants to make a really good last movie and he can't figure out what that is
Hmm.
because he's given himself the limitation of it being one last movie.
Hmm.
So when he was trying to make the film critic, it was kind of like this thing of, I want to take everything I've learned and everything I've done and trying to bring it into one. And then he just didn't end up liking it for whatever reason. And from some of the things I heard, I think it's a good thing he didn't make that movie.
Mm.
Because just like concepts and ideas and premisi, I heard, I'm like, this, it was very meta. And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So I think he's just trying to. Tarantino's the type of guy who he wants to make something really good, fun, and badass as his last film, so he could be proud of. And I think it's gonna take him a long time to figure out what that is. However, I also don't think this is gonna be his last movie.
Mm.
Hopefully he lives a long, full life. I think he's gonna be back. I don't think he's a guy who can give up film. You
Mm.
know, Now, of course, I think there will be a downtime. He has gone off to say he wants to make theater, he wants to write books, all that stuff. I think he'll do that, but I think for sure he'll come back. I think it's too ingrained in him.
Mm.
We'll see. I could be wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. He's gonna make a ensemble cop drama where it turns out midway through the movie they're all werewolves, and it's gonna be called To Midnight and Then Midday. Yeah,
Sure,
that's what. Yeah,
sure.
that's what. Yeah, that's what it's
What
gonna
was
be
the
called.
what was the movie Ryan Reynolds was talking about? What's it called? Was it Alpha Cop? He said that it was going to be secretly Wolverine and Deadpool, but
Hmm.
he wouldn't tell anyone and they wouldn't do any trailers. So they would film fake trailers to Alpha Cop, and it's about like this cop that has like it's like two cops merge into one. So it's like uh It's like Alpha Cop, two brains, one cop, all balls. It's like, so when you go sit down to go watch Alpha Cop, like 5 minutes in, it cuts and it turns into Deadpool and Wolverine.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. Man, I don't know. Maybe I would have liked it more.
Maybe, yeah.
So, oh, listeners, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast. I know I told Sam this, but we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
I'm like rather quickly changing my views on it, and I'm like, no, I think I gotta go with Sam. I think that Deadpool's films, I don't want to say they got worse, but I think if you were to rank them, it's one, two, and three, best to worst.
Mm.
I don't want to say they got worse, but it's just what they initially set out to do with each film was kind of like what you said, Sam. Like it was just there was no sincerity there. Like they started to lose it, you know.
Hmm.
And I think all three films have good moments of heart and good character, but it just felt like that became less and less important. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Wolverine, Hugh Jackman had some great scenes in this movie, but that it wasn't enough to carry the movie, you know?
Yeah.
And then the overly stylized CGI and stop start slow motion chop and screw the soundtrack fight scenes, it just did nothing to me. And I'm like,
Hmm.
man, with the exception of the van fight, which I thought was brilliant. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hell yeah. But other than that, I'm just like, man, am I lame now? Am I boring? Like, am I just the only one who didn't have fun watching this movie? I'm like, I don't know, man.
No, I get because I'm right there with you.
All right, we'll be grumpy old men together.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
So,
at least we'll be together.
speaking of grumpy old men,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about Lost this week.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we're talking about season 5, episode 12, Dead is Dead. When Ben gets judged, that's essentially it. The whole story kind of revolved around him going to get judged by the smoke monster.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what was cool is you got to see him interacting with Locke. That was very interesting. Very different than because we've seen them paired up before a lot, but this is
Mm-hmm.
very different. And also the flashbacks was kind of cool because we got to fill in some gaps of Ben's story, including them try to age down Michael Emerson by giving him a different haircut. I was like, how old is he supposed to be in this scene?
Right. Hey, I mean, they were also trying to age down Widmore, by also giving him like a hairpiece.
Yeah, really weird hairpiece too. I was like, huh.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, you
Yeah.
know
What
what?
did you think about this one?
At some point you just gotta embrace it. I
Yeah.
really dug this, man. What a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
God, just Michael Emerson is so good.
Yeah.
He's so good in this role
Mm-hmm.
as this character because every single scene I'm just like, I don't believe you.
It's so
I'm-
easy
I
to
don't
write this
believe you.
guy off, because
Yeah.
he's this swarmy, creepy, maniacal villain.
Mhm.
And it's obvious that he's a creepy, swarmy, maniacal villain. But still, I'm like, I can't take my eyes off him. I'm like, dude, he's just so captivating in this role.
Yeah, I love how he's just very blunt and matter. Well, because first off, where he starts off in the episode with he's waking up and he sees Locke, and you can just see like the terror in his eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately he's just like, I can't believe it worked, and I'm like, okay, all
Uh-huh.
right,
Uh-huh.
but you just see how quick to the uptake this dude is,
It's Michael Emerson is so good. He's such a good actor. He is great at bad acting.
Mhm.
Because you could see him switch in that scene, and then the next scene where he's talking to
Caesar.
Caesar. He's like, really? Is that what he said? Well, he looks alive to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of like he was hamming it up just
Mm-hmm.
enough where you're like, oh man,
In
it's
fact,
so
I don't even remember him on the plane. Do
yeah.
you? Well, if he's saying these things, he must be a deranged man. What are
It's
we gonna
like
do?
Michael Emerson's a great actor. Benjamin Linus isn't. You know, so he has
Hmm.
to ham it up a little bit, but he still has to do it in a way that the audience can catch on. You
Hmm.
know, this contrary to some of the producers in the studios, Lost has never really treated its audience like they were dumb.
Hmm.
They've always at least tried to write for a smarter audience, you know, but still, like Michael Emerson has to act just a little off, just so the audience can catch on. Like, oh,
Hmm.
he's planning something.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I guess farewell Caesar. There you go.
man, what a way to
R.I.P. We
go.
hardly knew you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's literally what I said. Like as soon as he got shot, I was like, "Well, nice to know you."
Yep, another one bites the
Uh,
dust.
uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, but man, just okay. So like then going to Ben explaining to Locke why he had to kill him, all this stuff, blah blah blah,
Hmm.
and essentially being like, you had critical information that would have been lost if you were dead. And I'm sorry, John, I just didn't have the time to convince you to get back up on that table.
Yeah, I was like, oh
And I'm
man.
like, geez.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, sure, sure. And that's just kind of where like the whole like this whole thing is. It's like you don't know you don't know if what's coming out of Ben's mouth is the truth or not.
Yeah, that's the whole history of his character. Like he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just lie, he mixes lies with truth, and it's so hard to distinguish between the two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, yeah, you could theoretically like believe that, like, okay, yeah, I get that that's why you killed me, right? But at the same time, it's just like even like Locke, this whole episode is just kind of like he's done. He's done being dragged
Hmm.
around by this
Hmm.
little swarmy little guy. He's like, no, I like it's such an interesting switch to see Locke kind of be the pushover and kind of be the one, to just be like, all right, Ben, you first. Just like that. I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's like I'm gonna go
Or you
with
mean
you.
him not be the pushover?
Yeah, that's right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry of him not being the pushover.
Hmm.
So he's the one who's doing the pushing now.
He's in charge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this feels off, but I
Hmm.
like this lock a lot more.
I love the scene that Ben has with Son outside the house. And he's like, I've seen this island perform miracles, but one thing it's never done is bring someone back. He's like, so the fact, oh, so he's like, dead is dead, which is where the title of the episode comes from. He says,
Hmm.
so the fact that John Locke is out there walking around on this island terrifies me. I'm like, oh, okay. I think
Hmm.
Ben's telling the truth there.
Yeah,
Like, huh.
yeah. Man, I don't want to just like go beat for beat for the episode. It's just this episode was just so good.
Let's talk about the flashbacks first. We
Okay.
saw. I thought we were looking at teenage Ben because he was dressed like a teenager. I'm like,
Hmm.
what the hell? He has the little hat, you know, like I don't, he almost looked like a little scout. Like he had this kind of like neckerchief on. I'm like, what is going on here? But we see him steal Alex from young Russo.
Hmm.
That was interesting, you know. So he was sent to kill Russo. Uh, but he didn't for whatever reason. But he took Alex. And Whitmore's just like, kill that baby. And he's like, no. What does he say? He's like, does Jacob want to kill this baby?
Hmm.
Ooh, and just that kind of just shut him up. And it's like, that's interesting because we haven't really seen much of like why was Ben the one to step up and become the leader? You know,
Yeah.
this was kind of like the first time we see that, like him calling out Charles in front of everyone.
Hmm.
Oh, and the very first scene of the episode is where we see this young guy show up and he's mad at Richard for bringing Ben, and he introduces himself and it's young Charles Widmore. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
I guess after that we see, for whatever reason, they've replaced Widmore. It's now Ben's in charge.
Hmm.
Widmore's leaving on the sub. So we see where that rivalry comes from, and he's like, I'll be seeing you, boy. I was like, ooh.
Ooh.
And then sure enough, we see Ben try to go kill Penny. Luckily, it doesn't work.
Man, I was worried the whole time.
Uh-huh. He shoots Desmond, but Desmond was able to like fight back and throw him in the water, and we're like,
Hmm.
oh.
Remind me, does Ben himself at like as a person have a high body count? Like him actually killing people, not his actions getting people killed.
I don't know. He choked out Locke.
Yeah.
He shot Locke, but that didn't kill him.
Hmm.
Uh I don't know. Well, I mean, he helped orchestrate the mass slaughter of Dharma,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've actually seen him kill anyone.
Which is very interesting because he didn't kill Rousseau.
Yeah, I think he might have killed some of the commandos in season 4. Oh, he kills Kimi.
Yeah, he kills Kimi.
Huh.
Um, but it is interesting.
He's
It's
very much the type
interesting.
of person to send someone to do it.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
fact that he's going after Penny himself is very personal. See, he even makes Saeed kill a bunch of people, you know?
Yeah,
So the fact that
yeah.
he's going to go do Penny himself, it's just like, ooh,
Mhm.
this is personal.
But again, it's just this odd thing where it's like, well, you couldn't kill Rousseau or her baby. You went to go kill Penny, and you couldn't kill Penny.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. He tried to kill Penny. He hesitated and he got beat up by Desmond. The
Yeah,
thing with Russo, though, is he spares Russo. And that's what kind of has me fascinated.
yeah. That okay, yeah, that's true. But the point still stands. It's like this is a guy who, when he wants somebody dead, he either sends somebody out to do it,
Yeah.
or in the case of Locke, really feels like Locke is the only one. Like he's done Locke in himself.
Yeah.
So it's
But I mean,
just the fact that like like because he had Matt, he had ample time to go up he went up to Penny.
yeah.
You know, he's like 10 feet from her,
Yeah.
gun pointed, and he's listening to her beg, and he's emotional. He's
Yeah.
crying. He's almost crying, you
Yeah.
know, and that's even before uh little baby Charlie shows up.
Hmm.
You know, and then it becomes a thing of just like I'm doing this because your dad killed my daughter, you know, all that stuff.
Hmm.
And then Desmond comes in
Yeah.
and it is able to do that. So it's just like, why the hesitation? This guy is so maniacal.
I don't know. I mean, we've just talked about it. He doesn't really kill anyone himself. That could
Yeah.
be it. You know, I mean, it's not about Penny at all. You know, he's trying to get back at Widmore. So maybe he is having some doubts. Like if Desmond didn't show up, maybe he would have changed his mind.
Hmm.
I honestly don't know. It didn't seem like he was, because he was
Yeah.
pretty like passionate in that moment. Uh but I mean it's a possibility.
Well, that's what that's that's not necessarily what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that it's just Ben himself.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Rousseau or Penny. It's just Ben.
Hmm.
Ben's a coward.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because I mean that's like even in the flashbacks, you know, like he's sorry, not the flashbacks, in the previously, you know, it shows that like, oh yeah, he told Kimi that Alex wasn't his real daughter. and that she
Hmm.
means nothing to him, and then she dies. Uh,
Yeah.
that's sort of the big thing that goes into the end where he is judged by old Smokey Joe.
Hmm.
Uh, and he's confronted with these moments of his past,
Yeah.
and that's one of them. He has to watch his daughter die, and then that's sort of the island's ultimate, not necessarily, it's not a punishment, but it's a judgment. The island manifests itself as Alex
Hmm.
to confront Ben with this truth, and it's really the first time the whole episode where I fully believe that this dude is scared.
Yeah.
Outside of him like telling Son that seeing John Locke alive is
Yeah.
terrifying. But it's like this is the real Ben. The real
Hmm.
Ben is not this guy who's steely and calm under pressure and has 10,000 plans, all this stuff. Is like, no, you're scared. You're a coward.
Well, sure. I mean, I believe that, but at the same time, he manipulated and he stole the gun and he killed Caesar in cold blood. You know, it's like, sure, I'll believe you when you say he's a coward, but like, what does that mean in this context? Like, does it matter? Like, is his whole thing to get judged? Is I mean, it's so weird because again, Ben doesn't isn't just a liar. He mixes the lies with the truth, and that's what makes it so complicated. You
Right.
know, I do agree he makes choices because he's afraid, but I also agree he makes choices because it's for the best of the island.
Hmm.
But I also know he makes choices just because he wants to be the one in charge.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like, I honestly don't know if he would have killed Penny or not, but he hesitated. And
Hmm.
it's always tough with stories because I'm not going to ever say someone who hesitates to shoot someone is a coward because there's too much emotion in that. It's like, is it a coward move to not kill someone? Maybe that's the last bit of humanity Benjamin Linus has that is causing him to not pull that trigger. You
Hmm.
know, again, I don't know why he spared Russo. Was it because he was too afraid to kill? Maybe, but
Hmm.
that also doesn't explain why he's the one who kept Alex. You know,
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot more complications in there, especially considering this is a guy who grew up with only an abusive father for a parent.
Yeah.
He spares Alex's mother
Hmm.
and he really hesitates to kill baby Charlie's mother, you know?
Hmm.
So, I don't know. I think it's complicated. And again, yeah, I think he was definitely afraid and that's what got Alex killed. But I at the same time, he's fighting for himself, but he's also fighting for the island, and he's fighting against Charles Widmore, which is why he didn't go with Kimi in the first place. But
Hmm.
I think it's kind of hard to reason with someone in that because like none of that matters. He got his kid killed. And that's kind of where he's going with this whole episode. And I like that Locke calls him out on it. He's like, "You're not going to be judged on your actions for what you did or didn't do for the island. You're going to be judged because you got your daughter killed." And I'm like, ooh, yeah, which makes that kind of ending scene that much more terrifying that it did turn into Alex.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh man. And his last line, I don't know if he was terrified or if he was sad, but he just says, "It let me live." And
Hmm.
it wasn't a happy thing. It wasn't a hopeful thing. It's like, oh shit, did Ben really think he was going to go die down there?
Hmm.
It kind of seemed like it. Like he was saying his goodbyes.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh wow. I don't know, man. And he tells Son, like, tell Desmond, I'm sorry. Like, was that I is he sorry? Like, I don't, why would he say that? Like, why would he make that up, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Benjamin Linus is such a fascinating, you can write a whole thesis on that character.
Yep. Yep. And if you did, I would like to read it. So please send it to us.
I won't. I'm a millennial. I'll just read the headline and like the summary paragraph that you get for people who don't want to read the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
TLDR.
Yeah, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
What else happened in this episode? Oh, Frank goes back to the plane.
Oh, poor
Ileana,
Frank.
and apparently Ileana's friends found guns
Mm-hmm.
and they're rounding up the survivors and asking what is in the shadow of the statue. Like, what the hell is this? Is this a cult? Is there
Sounds like it.
another party on this island now? Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
happening?
Poor Frank. He should have just stayed with Son.
I know, man. Things are getting real complicated real fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like dead men are walking around the island. On the other islands, these weird, I guess, cultists have guns now.
I wouldn't say
Yeah.
cult, except that they asked a very cult-like question, you know?
It's like it's cult or spy, you know? Like that's
Oh
really
yeah.
all it is, you know, like because I
Yeah.
feel like that could be a thing. What lies in the shadow of the mountain? Uh, a baby fox in spring or something, you know, and then it's like, ah, yes, you're in, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Like, or yeah, or it's just a cult. And yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's freaky no matter how you look
Wait,
at it.
is it Shadow of the Mountain or the statue?
Oh, Shadow of a Statue. I think that's what they said, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's the statue. Does that mean we're finally gonna get to see the big old statue again? Is that the statue they're talking about? Well, no, I guess it can't be because wait, where is that statue? That statue's on the main island, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
They'd have to go. They got boats.
That's true. They do have boats. And at some point they go after uh the
Right? We
Islanders, the
think that's
island
them.
party. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's them because they have guns and they're shooting people in the
They have
water.
guns now. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This was good. We've spent a while with the Oceanic Six, and then the Time Hoppers, and now they're all Dharma. So this was
Mm,
nice to get back to like present day and the new survivors, and even though we barely see them, but Sun, and see what they're up to.
mm-hmm.
Um, this episode was really good. I like the amount of what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of like not stress. What's not horror, not terror, but there's a lot of things. Just the ambiance was very like dreadful. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
I love Ben like seeing the light turn on in the house. He's like, that was Alex's room. And Locke just lets him go on his own. So he's going through. It's really creepy. They really took their time. I was like, okay, cool. And then
Mm-hmm.
same thing when he's so cool when he goes through like the closet through the little hole to
Mm-hmm.
summon the smoke monster. I'm like, oh, I love this adventure stuff. And then when they actually get to like, what do they call it? Like the
The temple.
perimeter wall of the
Oh
temple.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And then Locke's like, we're not going to your temple. We're going underneath. I was like, yes, yes, go to the temple. I want to see it. So they go underneath and it's all creepy, but then like adventure in Indiana Jones, I'm like, dude, this is so cool.
There's weird hieroglyphs in there, and then it looks like a pictograph of Anubis and some other
Yeah.
entity. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I love the way the smoke monster just like pours out of
Oh,
that
those
little
holes, right? I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's
those like
cool.
out of those holes and then kind of coils itself around like a around Ben like a snake.
Hmm.
So great. Man, like lots of weird like lore and world building this episode.
Yeah, yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Benjamin Linus episodes usually aren't the most fun, but I appreciate it that there was so much lore in this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. It was a good time.
And see, this is what you can do when you give your shows time to breathe.
Yeah, time to breathe,
Time
time to cook,
time to
and
cook.
they knew when they were going to end it.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of this. We got to have a good season finale so we can get greenlit next season. No, let them know ahead of time. They knew at
Mm-hmm.
this point when they were ending. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love the concept that Black Sails used because like before season one even aired, they were greenlit for season two.
Mm.
The execs saw it and they're like, you know what? This is badass. We're gonna get it doesn't matter if no one watches it. We're giving you a season two. And each
Yeah.
season was greenlit before the previous one even aired. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's awesome, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
faith in what you're putting your money into and who you're hiring to do their thing, you know? Black Sails, man.
I agree.
What a show.
I agree.
Season 90 of Lost Legacies. Um Yeah, man. That's pretty much it. I went through all my notes already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do I even got to ask MVP?
Michael Emerson.
Michael Emerson, hands down.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just really cool seeing him like bounce off of other people. I really did like him and John this episode though. So like a
Yeah,
very special, shout out to Terry O'Quinn
yeah.
because yeah,
And you're very
what a
much.
performance.
I think you mentioned it earlier, like how the tables have turned, and like Locke's the one in charge now, and like to see Ben dealing with that. I love they have that conversation too. Locke is like, "You don't like this, do you? Not knowing where you're going, having to follow someone else," and he's like, no, Locke, I don't like this at all. I was like, yeah, I love watching this. And then I love that scene with Alex. You know, like I think Michael
Mhm.
Emerson just did a really good job, both when he was apologizing to her and because you know, as evil as the guy as he is, there's still a part of him that was a dad. You know,
Mhm.
and I kind of like that in the flashes. We got to see some of it. Most of it was like footage from the show, but there were some things. And then like in the flashbacks where like he's pushing her on the swing, you know, and
Mhm.
she's calling him daddy. I'm like, oh man, like for all intents and purposes, to her, he was her dad, you know, and
Yeah.
he treated her like a daughter. It's just again, he's a very controlling person. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my God, dude. So huge shout out to Michael Emerson. That was a great scene. And then when Alex switches and starts threatening him, he's just terrified. And I'm like, again, phenomenal acting. We don't know what he meant when he said it let me live. I can't tell if he's heartbroken by that but it's almost like, damn it, I'm still alive. Like
Mhm.
now what? I have to continue. Like I thought my story was over.
Yeah.
Okay, so predictions.
Everybody's gonna meet back up at some point.
Yeah,
I don't know when.
we got 4 episodes left, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're getting pretty close to the end game here. It's so interesting that Locke knows things,
yeah,
you know? And it's kind of a thing that like Ben hinted at, that's like you don't get to come back. It's like that kind of an experience. Like it's the thing that we've been talking about, like this whole time whenever shows kill off characters and then bring them back, it's like something gets lost there. You
yeah,
you have to come back without something,
yeah. You
you
can't just
know?
come back like Jon Snow, who's just comes back even more emo. That's about
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know.
Kind of more badass.
Yeah, and then he's
Um
like, "If I die, don't bring me back." Why
mhm.
not?
It's like, no, we're bringing you back.
You got it pretty good coming back, you know. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know, but all that to say is that I feel like John coming back is going to have some very unforeseen consequences.
mm.
I think it's going to be not great for everyone.
I'm sure we'll have it all figured out next week when we talk about Lost season 5, episode 13. Some like it Hoth. While Dharma freaks the heck out, Miles is forced to work with Hurley. What could possibly go wrong?
I like it.
Yeah,
Some like it
we
hot.
we need more Hurley. You know, he's been kind of on the side, just biding his time this whole time. Last couple episodes,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we need some Hurley back. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Speaking of Hurley, in today's edition of Mary Bang Die Fighting Beside,
Mm-hmm.
our options are Hurley,
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Faraday,
Mm-hmm.
and Claire.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you forgot about Claire, right? We haven't seen her since last season.
Uh-huh. And even then, I think it was just one episode, right?
It wasn't a lot. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay. See. Mary Bang, that fighting beside. See, see now, this is a different kind of tough from last week,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I really like all of them. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want I don't want any of them to die. I also don't want to die, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to die fighting beside these people. Like, they're nice.
That's
Also,
okay.
I don't
You won't be around to see it happen. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I guess you will, but
yeah, I will.
yeah.
That's the thing. I am gonna witness this.
Mm-hmm.
Um Also, none of them are very good fighters. I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, I think Claire might be the only one that has some kind of prowess, or who would at least be like willing to fight. Okay,
I
no, I have my answer. It's
Okay. What's your
yeah,
answer?
I have my answers. All right. When you find the one, you just know that it's right. Uh, um, I'm gonna marry Hurley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna marry Hurley. He's nice. He's a nice boy, and uh, yeah, the fact that he's also a lotto winner helps a little bit. Kind of the opposite situation of last week, where it's just like, oh, there's no love between
Mm-hmm.
the person I'm marrying. It's like, no, I think there would be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of shared interest. I think it'd be fine. Bang. I'll go Faraday.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Faraday. He's got the weird nerd thing going on, like
Yeah.
it's yeah, I get it. I get it. And then yeah, die fighting beside Claire.
Yeah. See, I gotta agree. I was gonna marry Hurley, bang Claire, and then die fighting beside Faraday, but I don't know. Like Faraday, from what we've seen, like he's stepped up, but he always needs like that motivation.
Mm-hmm.
That motivation was usually Charlotte, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, other than that, like he kind of just ends up in his own little world. Like I don't know how realistic like he would die fighting beside you, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't know. Yeah, so I'll agree with you. Bang Faraday, die fighting beside Claire.
There you go.
Yeah. So man, this is interesting. In this watching this episode and kind of looking up and doing some research on it last night, I ended up on Reddit, and apparently this was the least watched episode of all of Lost.
This
Like,
one?
yeah, the Nelson numbers or whatever was so down, and I'm like, wow, interesting. Which sucks because I
Why
feel like there
though?
was lore and there was like weird, creepy island stuff that people wanted that we got with
Yeah.
this. But you also have to keep in mind when people say things like that. This was the least watched episode. That means it has nothing to do with this episode because nobody watched it. So it was probably a response to the previous episode. And I'm like, huh, I get it. I know a lot of people didn't like this season. I know a lot. And here's my thing. I think they just get confused and they stop caring. Like, if they don't understand, they don't know how to care. It's so weird. Because then I was on
Yeah.
Reddit and I was reading all this stuff from people, and they're saying it was like split down the middle, man. Like a lot of people were saying this is their least favorite season of Lost. I was like,
This
what?
one?
Yeah. They're saying it's so slow and the pacing is off and everyone's split apart. I'm like, you just described season 2, except this season 16 episodes. Season 2 was like 24.
Yeah.
And when season 2 had like off episodes or the pace slowed down, it slowed down big time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this season, I kind of feel like, and a lot of people are saying like there's no best of the like episodes of this season, and everyone's like, no, there's some really solid episodes this season, like LaFleur, and then the one before when they actually make it back to the island. I was like, yeah. I'm like, that's like hardcore Lost. This is the season where they really dive into sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
And fantasy, just with like Ben looking at, you know, the monster and seeing his past like confronted him. It's
they've
like
slowly been teasing it, but like this season, like they really started diving in. I guess it wasn't subtle enough for people. I don't know. Or people just didn't understand and get it enough, so that means they didn't like it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe you're not supposed. We just got done watching Lost. I mean, not Lost, Dark.
Yeah.
Like, you're not supposed to understand Dark. That's the point. There's so many other storylines going on that you haven't got to yet. People are dumb.
People are dumb.
Yeah. But there was a lot of people that were saying, like, because of those things, season 5 is their favorite. Because it is all time travel and it is all sci-fi and spooky and weird. I was like, yeah, I'll agree. The pacing is weird, just the way things kind of happen, but I kind of dig it. Like, yeah, I don't know. So it'll be interesting when the season's over and we can kind of compare it to like the previous seasons and see where it lands, you know? Let us know, everyone, what you thought of the episode. Hit us up, #Lost Legacies. Let us know. Lost Season 5. Yay or nay? As always, I'm on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
And you can find our other links to our YouTube page and all that stuff and our email in the description of this episode wherever you are listening and or watching it. So, until next week, get lost.
Get lost.